senseless violence and loss of life will not be tolerated.
Just days after a pregnant restaurant owner was shot and killed, Seattle police announced plans to form a new community violence task force.
If you're trafficking women, if you are selling drugs, and if you're committing crimes with a gun, the Seattle Police Department is coming for you.
There's definitely attitudes about it, I think.
The 206 adds the 564.
Living here for so long, I am kind of, conditioned to know that, 206, that's Seattle.
What's behind the move to add a new area code?
I'm Drew Mickelson at the old Olympia Brewery, where the city of Tumwater has spent nearly 20 years trying to get someone to redevelop and reopen this property. Coming up, why the city today is raising a glass to the federal government.
I don't want this to happen to anybody if I can get that word out so they don't find themselves at stage 4.
Raising awareness.
Black individuals in the United States have worse outcomes for a wide range of cancers and diseases.
One doctor's quest to get more Black men screened for prostate cancer.
First at 4, in the wake of multiple shootings in Seattle this week, Seattle Police Chief Adrian Diaz just announced a new community violence task force. Thanks for being with me this afternoon. I'm Jessica Janner Castro. This announcement comes just days after a pregnant woman and her baby were killed in Seattle's Belltown neighborhood. King 5's Connor Board reports from Seattle Police Headquarters.
According to Seattle Police data, as of the end of May, deadly shootings are up in the city this year. And with recent violence over the past week, Seattle Police Chief Adrian Diaz is taking a new step to try to keep the people of Seattle safe.
I am today announcing the formation of a new community violence task force.
A new task force aimed at preventing violence in Seattle, which Seattle Police Chief Adrian Diaz says is seeing an uptick.
You can't have people being shot. I had 4 people shot last night. One of them resulted in a homicide.
In the first 5 months of 2022, there were 78 shootings in Seattle that resulted in injuries or death. In the first 5 months of this year, there have been 67. When looking at just shooting deaths in that same time frame, last year, 15 people had died in shootings in Seattle, while that number is 18 as of the end of May.
It's unacceptable that people live and work here fear for their safety. And it's unacceptable that innocent lives are lost due to senseless acts of violence.
The new task force will not have any additional funding and will utilize 50 to 60 officers and detectives to help make sure people are being held accountable for acts of violence. The 4 specific areas that will be focused on are the Central District, Aurora, South End, and downtown.
I'm deeply concerned about the recent increase in gun violence. That includes the tragic death of a pregnant woman on the streets of downtown in the middle of the day.
The shooting that killed a pregnant woman and her baby, who was delivered a short time later at the hospital, happened in Belltown, which is in Seattle City Council member Andrew Lewis's district.
We do know that they had an illegal firearm. We do know they were a felon and were not allowed to possess a firearm. Any gun in this community, even ones that are bought legally, have the potential to be stolen and get on our streets.
With this task force now starting, Police Chief Diaz made it clear they are focused on reducing crime.
If you are trafficking women, if you are selling drugs, and if you're committing crimes with a gun, the Seattle Police Department is coming for you.
Now, with the Seattle Police Department being understaffed, Chief Diaz says this will be challenging and they will have to take detectives off some cases to help with this task force. In Seattle, Connor Board, King 5 News.
So as Connor mentioned, this new task force comes on the heels of the death of Ina Kwan, a Seattle business owner. Just moments ago, charges were brought against her alleged killer. King 5's Kristen Goodwillie is joining me in the newsroom. Kristen.
Today, the King County Prosecuting Attorney's Office charged Cordell Maurice Gooseby with murder and attempted murder in the first degree. Community members gathered around the memorial today to honor and mourn the loss of one of their own in Belltown.
Bright flowers adorn Abaria Bento House's entrance.
She was always serving.
The owner, 34-year-old Ina Kwan, was shot and killed in Belltown Tuesday in a seemingly random attack.
Warm, lovely, kind.
Heartbreaking to customers like Tatu Muranmar.
There's nothing you can do to get them back, but at least you can show that you care. It's a really tough blow.
Michael Bufano owns the business next door, Gallery Mac.
I just don't think I've ever saw her not smiling or
When
not.
Bufano's son got married, Kwan catered the wedding.
She had her first baby. While we've been here, we all survived the pandemic together. We've had a really tight bond with all of the businesses here.
Kwan was 8 months pregnant when she was killed. Seattle police revealing it knew the suspect, Cordell Maurice Gooseby, before the shooting.
We know that our officers had an understanding of who he was, so experiencing some level of mental health.
But friends argue the focus should be on the victims and solutions.
The whole community has lost. So.
Now, an additional murder charge could come down if investigators can prove that the baby was born alive and then later died. At this point, investigators tell me that they are reviewing the medical records. I'm Kristen Goodwillie. Back to you.
Kristen, thank you. There was more violence in Seattle overnight. A man was shot and killed outside a North Seattle hotel. Officers were called to the Comfort Inn along Aurora Avenue and 137th Street around 4 this morning. Police have not identified a suspect, and it's still unclear what led up to the shooting. Then in the Ballard neighborhood, 3 people were shot just after midnight. It happened near the intersection of Northwest Leary Way and 9th Avenue. Medics took 2 victims, including a 20-year-old woman and a 58-year-old man, to the hospital. A 3rd woman who was hurt refused care and walked away. New at 4, one of the men involved in a deadly shooting in downtown Seattle in 2020 has just been sentenced to more than 5 years in prison. William Tolliver pleaded guilty earlier this month. He could be released from custody sooner based on time already served. 1 person died in that shooting and 7 were injured, including a 9-year-old boy. In another case, Tolliver has been charged with felony harassment linked to domestic violence. On a much lighter note, let's get to your weekend forecast now. Adam Claybon joining me. It's Father's Day, and we have a big cool down in store.
Yeah, numbers are going to drop by about 10 to 15 degrees this afternoon, and then we're going to see that drop as we go throughout the weekend, coupled with more rain too. So get ready for that. Right now, a lot of cloudy skies out there. Temperatures in the mid 60s, low 70s. We got a few of those out there, but they're not many. Tacoma right now sitting at 70 degrees. Seattle at 69. So here's a look. You can see the satellite imagery showing a line of clouds just off of the coast, and that's directed right at us here in the Pacific Northwest. That's going to be part of a trough in the system that you see in the Gulf of Alaska. That's spinning down towards us as we go later on here into the night, and that's going to bring in some periods of light rain. I think just a few areas of light showers tonight. More rain to come by that Father's Day. We'll go over those details coming up.
Thank you, Adam. Take a look here. This video shared with King 5 shows vandals tearing down a fence with the pride flag painted on the side. A family living near Auburn says they've been targeted countless times for showing LGBTQ+ support. The family told King 5 the vandalism started on a small scale but has grown to fireworks and spray paint. They say they won't let the so-called bullies win. King 5's Madison Wade reports.
A graduation banner, an American flag, a painted pride flag, and trans flag can be seen at Ed Brabant's home in King County.
We keep the pride flag up, actually, like 24/7.
Since moving to this home in May 2021, Brabant says vandals have targeted them.
In August, we put up the flag and the flag kept getting stolen.
Brabant even installed glitter bombs to deter thieves.
Then we built like glitter bombs and with ultrafine glitter because if you're going to steal my flag, I want you to look fabulous in the process.
After dealing with stolen pride flags for more than a year, Brabant decided to paint the pride flag permanently. He says multiple people came and defaced the flag.
2 people came up and they spray painted swastikas, F, LGBTQ, and Trump 2024 big letters across our fence, right?
Then it escalated to fireworks. On multiple occasions, Brabant's home has been targeted with mortars and fireworks shooting over his fence.
The last time we got hit was at the end of March with a mortar round that landed 6 feet from my son's window.
And most recently, vandals decided to rip apart their fence. Brabant isn't alone. In Tacoma, police have reported 9 incidents of pride flags being stolen, and they're investigating the pattern as a hate crime.
They're damaging the property when they go up there and they remove the pride flag and what it stands for. And yeah, we're definitely going to take it on as a crime of hate.
Brabant says he won't back down.
I'm honestly worried about the safety of my family. People ask all the time, why don't you just paint it over, right? And I can't. For a couple reasons.
He doesn't want bullies to win, and he's expressing his First Amendment rights.
All of our messaging is designed to be loving, right, and caring and community oriented. So we're not going to stop.
And that was Madison Wade reporting. Brabant is working to raise money to install a protective, fireproof metal panel fence as well as an enhanced camera system. If you'd like to know more, just head to our website, king5.com. Okay, remember Olympia beer? It's the water and a lot more. Well, it's been 20 years since the Olympia Brewery shut down. In a King 5 exclusive, Drew Mickelson shows us how a $500,000 grant could help bring that property back to life.
One reason this property has sat idle for so long, cleaning up and renovating the old Olympia Brewery will cost someone several $million. So what's the big deal about a $500,000 grant? Well, the city of Tumwater says that relatively small amount will make a big difference in making this property more attractive.
The brewery had played an incredibly important part in Tumwater.
It's hard to imagine today, past all the rust and the broken windows.
This community was very proud of the Schmidt family. They were very proud of Olympia beer.
But the Olympia Brewery property was a jewel of Thurston County for nearly 100 years until it closed 20 years ago this month.
Not only was it an economic impact, it stood as the soul of the city. And right now there's just a great big hole right in the middle of the city that needs to be filled.
The city of Tumwater owns the historic brewery tower and is trying to preserve it for future developers. But what's considered the new old brewery property has changed ownership over the years after plans for redevelopment have stalled or crumbled.
This will make a huge difference because we need to know what we're dealing with.
A grant from the federal government is giving the city new hope for this old place.
You know, I think about growing up in this region, and I'm old enough to remember the jingle. We talk about jingles a lot. It's the water and a lot more. I'm not going to sing Ole Ole O for you.
Congresswoman Marilyn Strickland came to the property Friday to announce the city of Tumwater is getting a $500,000 grant for an environmental assessment that could lead to federal funding of any cleanup that's needed, making the property ripe for developers.
This is what prevents so much investment, so much energy from coming to this, because nobody knows what the risks are, what the liability are.
It will still take a private developer with deep pockets to return the Ole property to its past glory.
It moves slowly. It doesn't happen overnight.
The city of Tumwater has up to 4 years to spend this $500,000 grant, but the city is not going to wait. The assessment will begin in October. In Tumwater, Drew Mickelson, King 5 News.
New at 4, another sign of progress for the light rail expansion from Northgate into Snohomish County. A grand opening celebration was held today for a new parking garage at the Linwood Transit Center. It is 5 stories tall with some 1,600 spaces.
We're talking about a garage, and it's a beautiful garage. It's a magnificent edifice, but more important than that, it is symbolic of what is coming and the change that is happening here in Linwood and throughout Snohomish County and the region.
The Linwood Light Rail is expected to open next summer or fall, adding 4 new stations. A major strike could be looming for UPS workers. The current 5-year contract expires on July 31st. That means a strike could start on August 1st if there's no agreement before then. If a strike does happen, it would be the largest against a single employer in America's history. More than 330,000 people work at UPS, making it the biggest unionized employer in the private sector. UPS says it is confident there won't be a strike at this time. So Seattle could run out of 206 area code phone numbers in the next 2 years. So it's adding a new one. Today we asked Seattleites how they feel about the new 564 number.
I guess living here for so long, I am kind of, conditioned to know that, 206, that's Seattle.
Within the next couple years, those living in the Seattle area who are looking to get a new phone number won't be able to get the classic 206. Now, 564 will be handed out to the newbies.
If I saw 564 and I saw Washington, like it's from the state of Washington, I would probably be very confused because I have no idea where that area code, which part of Washington that area code is from.
Other people are already using that area code in parts of Western Washington. 564 was approved by the Utilities and Transportation Commission in 2000, but didn't actually need to be used until 2017, when the area code 360 started running out. Some people living in Seattle say while older area codes add a certain credibility, it doesn't really change much.
You can have it 907 and you can live in Miami, so like it doesn't have the same meaning anymore.
Don't worry if you already have a 206 number. Your current number won't change. The plan is to have the new phone number options ready to go in the next 9 months ahead of when 206 is expected to run out.
Well, take a look here. The Juneteenth flag is now flying at City Hall and Federal Way. The city raised the flag at noon today. The holiday, which is celebrated on June 19th, commemorates when the last enslaved people in the South were finally set free. President Biden signed a bill in 2021 to make Juneteenth a federal holiday. And we should note that other Western Washington cities are commemorating the federal holiday as well. They have their own celebrations. In Olympia, the city has scheduled a gathering for Sunday at Rebecca Howard Park, and in Kirkland, East Side for All is going to be hosting an event at Juanita Beach Park tomorrow, and that will include speakers, entertainment, education, and a whole lot more. Still ahead, a closer look at the community affected the most by prostate cancer. HealthLink explains why one group in particular is seeing the most cases and the research being done to stop it. Plus some cooler temperatures, even some rain chances ahead for us on Father's Day. Meteorologist Adam Claiborne is tracking how that might impact your weekend plans in your First Alert forecast. We'll be right back.